If you work in the environmental or ecological space, the probability is that you're already using AI. Maybe quietly, maybe you're a little unsure about it. Unfortunately, most people in this field are figuring these tools out alone, with no real framework to show where they can trust the AI output, where they can't trust it, and no one from within the field to show them how. That's what this channel is about. Hi, I'm Mike. For the last 15 years, I've been involved in ecological design, planning, project development, and education. And when AI tools like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini became available, I jumped in with both feet because I'm not a technical person. I'm not a developer. I'm not a coder. I don't come from a data science background. So I saw a tool that we could finally use, people like me, to really leverage to increase the positive impact that we want to have in the world. And I got really excited about this as the barrier to entry came down and the level of quality of the output went up. But then I ran into a problem, one that many of you are aware of. I started reading about the negative impact of this infrastructure, namely the data centers, the energy use, the water use, the community impact of where these data centers are sited. And so I actually set the tools down because I do not want to use a tool that has a net negative impact. That's not why we get into this work. So I did what many of you are probably doing, a deep dive into it to see what is the real impact of this, and using these tools, can I have a net positive impact or can't I? Because I don't want to pick that tool back up if that's not the case. And answering that question is what's driving this channel now. So let me tell you what I ended up with in 4 pieces, and those 4 pieces will be broken up into their own topics. First, these tools are extremely powerful, and I don't say that lightly because I don't do hype. Let's take, for example, the European Weather Center. In 2025, they switched to an AI-based forecasting model. And 2 things happen. 1, it is extremely more efficient in terms of energy, far less energy used with the AI forecasting model than they were doing it in the previous way. And 2, the improvement and the accuracy got even better. So science got better, footprint went down. And it's not just happening at the data science level. This is showing up more often than you might think in throughout ecological and environmental work. But powerful doesn't mean automatic or safe to hand off blindly. And that's what brings us to number 2. That is using these tools with intention. Now, one of the first things I learned about the information around this technology is that this is moving so quickly. This technology is developing and evolving so quickly, faster than anything we've seen. That means that the numbers will not stay the same. If I give you a statistic today, within a few months it's obsolete. But there are some skills, like intentional use, that can transcend that as it evolves. Let me give you a concrete example, and I will start with what to me is one of the most foundational parts of using these tools, and that is context. Any good output I've gotten from an AI tool has come because I've given it the correct context. And I'll use the analogy of onboarding somebody to help you do the work that you do. Say you bring them in, and they can be incredibly intelligent, very eager, wanting to please, ready to go. But if you don't give them the context about who you are, about the work you do, about what a good outcome and output looks like, and you just give them a task and they know nothing about you or your work, they don't even know if you work in the environmental space or you're a teacher or you're a lawyer, you give them that task and you're going to come back with some mediocre, what we see every day as AI slop. Now, if you have that same person coming into your workflow or your organization and you give them your SOPs, you give them a handbook on what to do in each situation, you give them context, you let them shadow you for a week or 2 so they understand the culture of where you're at if you're in an organization. You teach them about the work that you do before you give them work themselves. Once you give them that same task, the output will be so much better. And it's the same with AI. AI is trained on the entirety of the internet, so you have to give it context about you to get the kind of output that you want. Otherwise, you get this mediocre, bland, because AI defaults to the median, and it's going to give you that median back. So that's the difference between just using a tool and using a tool well. And so while the technology is moving so quickly and the intentional use is one of the ways that we navigate that, this brings me back to what I feel is the most important point number 3, and that is your judgment stays intact, not the models. These tools are very, very good at sounding very confident, even when they're absolutely wrong. And that confidence is actually what gets people in trouble, because they start trusting the output before they've done enough verification of it. and end up skipping the step of checking it. So the skill is not binary, trust AI or don't trust AI. It's where has AI earned the trust? Where has it not? Now, I go into future videos how to parse that out, because there are some things that AI can handle fairly easily and they're low risk. These are the areas that you want to start and build that trust with it. Some of it, you never let go of the steering wheel on that one. You may use AI to help you with it and it augments your work, but the work stays yours. And then there's some things that AI just doesn't belong. That's not what the tool was built for. But we'll get into that in later videos, as well as where these tools actually fail. Because if you don't know where they break, if you don't know the failure mode, you risk finding out when something's already gone out. And fourth is that it has a real cost. Energy use, water use, the impact on the communities where these data centers are sited. They're forced to carry an outsized burden because a data center lands in their community, and often they may not even have a say in that. And I'm going to walk through what that actually looks like, without the industry talking points, but without the doom either, because both of those sides miss important points. And that's what comes up in my next video. So that's the shape of it. Powerful, but without the hype. Useful, but with intention. A lot of leverage available, but with your judgment intact. And going over the true cost of it. Because pretending otherwise isn't a version that I'm going to do. I've spent 15 years in the ecological space, watershed management, nature first solutions, green infrastructure, that kind of thing. And I'm that person first. This channel is where I'm going to work through in public what it looks like for people like us, people who care about getting it right, on how to use these tools well, ethically, intentionally, with our judgment intact. And it's not because I have it all figured out. It's because I think this conversation is worth having out loud, honestly, instead of quietly alone, which is how most people in this space are having to do this. So stick around. We're going to take these apart one at a time, starting with what this actually costs.